Today, and it's a continuation of the study of the purpose, what the purpose that God created us. And have you ever thought about, I mean, most of us are getting on up in the years. I'll say most of us. Some of us are still young sprats, but younger than we are. Have you ever thought about what your purpose is, what my purpose is in this life? I mean, is it it's to serve God, for one thing. That's what we're supposed to do. As Christians, we're supposed to do that, and we'll get into that in a minute in our lesson. But have you ever thought about that? What your purpose in life is? I mean, I hadn't really stopped to think about it, but, you know, as you get older, you think about a lot of things, don't you? You think about, you know, as you get on up in your 70s or whatever. I used to think 70 was old. It ain't no more. So 74 now. I just had one recently, and you stop and think about things a lot when you hit that mark. But anyway, our lesson today is entitled Purpose Restored. And when something is restored, it's put back, or it's brought back, or it's built back. There's a lot of definitions for it, but restore means purpose restored. And just to go back a minute on something that we had earlier, God created us with a purpose in mind. Whether you think about that or not, that is so true. When we discover that purpose in Christ, life takes on a meaning and richness the world can't offer, even though there are a lot of things in the world that people put before God. We've all been guilty of that, I'm sure, at one time or another. But anyway, if you want to go ahead and turn in your books to page we're on, we're going to be starting on page 37 today, session 3. Purpose restored. Now, the different lessons I've taught two, this will be my second one. James has taught one. I think there's 3 more after today. And this is the lesson on the purpose restored. And in each one of those, I think I haven't looked that far ahead, but the lesson today comes from the book of Acts. The book of Acts, which is in the New Testament. It's after John, I believe. My memory's right. But before we get into the lesson, I want to cover a couple of things about that book, and about, we all know the author of the book of Acts was Luke. Let me just read those to you, just a few here. The book of Acts was written by Luke. He wrote one of the 4 Gospels between the year 63 and 70 A.D. Chapters, I believe, in it. The blueprint of the book can be broken down into 2 parts. The first part is Peter's ministry, chapter 3. So that's gonna be part of Peter's ministry. And if you break it down even further, what does the first 12 chapters deal with? The first thing, it deals with the establishment of the church in Jerusalem. Another thing it does is the expansion of the church, how it continued to grow. Now, in Paul's ministry, it covers 5 things. It's a little longer. In Paul's ministry, it included Paul's first missionary journey. And number 2, the council at Jerusalem. And number 3, the second missionary journey. And number 4, Paul's third missionary journey. He made 3. And then finally, the 5th part of the second part was Paul, when Paul was on trial. Now, our lesson today, as I said, comes from Acts chapter 3, verses. Acts